Let us take some time to study the words of God under the subject, serving others and preaching. Let us study God's teachings about what kind of mindset each of us must have, what kind of faith leading members must have. Let's take a look at Matthew chapter 11, verse 28. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Here, Jesus Christ said, learn from me. There are many things we need to learn from Jesus. Among many things we need to learn from Jesus, let us learn first that He led the gospel work by serving others. Today, let us study this through the Bible. Jesus said, come to me and learn from me. Without learning from Him, we cannot help but take a heavy yoke upon us forever. Let's find how God made the burden easy and light through Luke chapter 22, verse 24. Verse 24. Also a dispute arose among them as to which of them was considered to be greatest. Jesus said to them, the kings of the Gentiles lord it over them, and those who exercise authority over them call themselves benefactors. But you are not to be like that. Instead, the greatest among you should be like the youngest, and the one who rules like the one who serves. For who is greater, the one who is at the table or the one who serves? Is it not the one who is at the table? But I am among you as the one who serves. As you know, Jesus is God, who should be served in the highest position. But He came to the earth and said, come to me and learn from me. What kind of people should come to Jesus and learn from Him? All those who are weary and burdened. Those who are taking the heavy yoke upon them. Those who are weary and burdened are usually those who lead others at the front, such as title or position holders. All those who are in the front line of the gospel should come to Christ and learn from Him. What should they learn from Him? Jesus said, come to me and learn how to serve others. Then no matter how heavy our yokes are, the yokes will become easy and light from the moment when we serve. As you know, there is a short novel titled Journey to the East, written by Hermann Hesse. This novel is about the upper-class people who go on a pilgrimage to the East. The main character of this story is a simple servant named Leo. He takes on odd jobs and runs all the errands. He sometimes becomes a good listener to the pilgrims and does everything for the noble and the upper-class people. During the pilgrimage to the East, while Leo, their servant, was with them, they had no problem and the journey went smoothly. But due to a certain incident, Leo disappeared from the pilgrimage. Since the moment Leo disappeared from the group, the journey ran into a crisis. The members were in a state of confusion, and communication was also bad among them. There had not been any problems among them until then. But as one person, Leo, disappeared and was no longer with them, as there was no servant who could run an errand, they got confused and began to waver in everything. Only then did the noble and the upper-class people in the pilgrimage realize that the journey would never go smoothly without Leo. Before, they had regarded Leo as nothing. They had considered him a mere servant. But without him, they fell into chaos. So they came to think over all the roles that Leo took on and his value. They realized that Leo had taken good care of them behind the scenes and had taken on all the hardest and most difficult jobs that others did not want to do. In that situation, they could no longer proceed with their pilgrimage without Leo. And so, the journey stopped there. The journey to the east stopped midway. One of the pilgrims was curious about why Leo had disappeared, where and how he had disappeared. After asking all around, through multiple channels, for many years, he finally came to meet Leo again. When he met Leo again, he was startled to know that Leo was one of the highest elders in the religious sect that hosted the pilgrimage to the east. Leo was a person who actually led a great organization. Despite that, he did all the chores and errands. Leo was never a lowly person. He was not a person whose presence didn't mean anything. Thanks to this man, all the people could go on a pilgrimage smoothly. But since this man disappeared, all systems went into confusion, and even communication among them collapsed. They could no longer go toward their destination. Today, we are spiritually going on a journey toward the great goal of preaching. We are all participating in it now. If we don't take on the role like Leo's in the pilgrimage, but just want to be served like the nobleman, our journey, our work of preaching cannot help but stop midway. As long as we want to be served, we cannot reach our destination. That is why we need the heart of Mother's leadership. Although Mother is in the highest position at home, she always supports her children. She takes good care of her children behind the scenes. Sometimes she takes on the role of a nurse, sometimes a nanny who puts the baby to sleep, sometimes a seamstress, and she washes the clothes her children got dirt on. Despite her high status at home, she does all the house chores. We need to learn humility from God. Leo was a man of the highest position in a denomination with a great number of members. Despite that, he volunteered to help the pilgrimage and did all the errands, serving them as if he was a servant. The people did not know who he was. Later, when his identity was revealed, they were astonished. Christ Jesus, too, came to the earth to serve. In light of his position, he didn't need to serve others, right? All people must exalt him and serve him. Despite that, he said, "I am among you as one who serves." As an example, Jesus washed the feet of his disciples on the day of the Passover. In those days, servants washed the feet of their masters. It was a custom in the Middle East. Only servants would wash the feet of their masters. Never was there a case when masters washed the feet of their servants. Across the ages and in all countries of the world, there has not been such a case except when Jesus did it. It is certain that God has given us such a great task and great blessings. Then how can we deal with it? Just like the man named Leo in the story. No matter what position we hold, no matter what title we have, if we take on our roles properly, the work of preaching will go smoothly. God will fulfill it for sure. For this, what did Jesus say? He said, "Come to me and learn from me." Today, we should know what Jesus taught us. The teachings of Father and instructions of Mother through the Bible. Let us once again engrave the teachings of God deep upon our hearts, so that at times we may do errands for our brothers and sisters, and at times take on the role of a consultant who listens to their suffering, and at times encourage them to always give thanks to God for saving us. By doing that, all our Zion members can safely reach the kingdom of heaven. As for serving others, we can see many teachings in the Gospels. Let's look at Mark chapter 10, verse 42. Jesus called them together and said, "You know that those who are regarded as rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and their high officials exercise authority over them. Not so with you. Instead, whoever wants to become great among you must be what? Must be your servant. Whoever says to himself, 'Oh, I want to become great among people. I want to be a great person in the kingdom of heaven,' must become a servant. Otherwise, his dream will come to nothing. As people say, his dream will go up in smoke." Verse 44. And whoever wants to be first must be what? Must be slave of all. Whoever wants to be great must be a servant, and whoever wants to be first must be slave of all. All here refers to everyone, whether he's a child or an adult. Whoever wants to be first must be slave of all, whether they are young or old, man or woman. With the mind to be slave of all, we should carry out the gospel work. Jesus is in very nature God, but he lowered himself, taking the nature of a servant. We can see this in the book of Philippians. If we are taking a heavy yoke upon us, today, let us follow the way to make our burden light, as God taught us. God said to us, "You must be slave of all. Whoever wants to be first in the kingdom of heaven must be last of all on the earth." God told us to carry out the gospel with faith, to be able to willingly sit at the lowest seat. Brothers and sisters, all the records in the Bible are not just moral instruction or merely good words, but lessons for the heavenly children. For the heavenly crowned princes and princesses, the holy lessons of God the Father and Mother are recorded in the Bible, right? These words were not for the people in the world. God granted his words only to his children, who committed sins in heaven unintentionally, and were driven to the earth. You may think, people in the world live as they please. People in the world may live against God's words. But we all ought to live according to the words, because we hope for the glory of heaven. Only when we follow the words of God can we be great in the kingdom of heaven. Is king the greatest or the least? We will reign forever and ever in the heavenly country. So we should learn the role of the greatest on the earth before we enter heaven. In order to be great, what do we have to be? Let's look at verse 43 again. Not so with you. Instead, whoever wants to become great among you must be what? Must be your servant. And whoever wants to be first must be slave of all. For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. We must live such a life. God is not a servant, but a teacher. God deserves to be worshipped. But he washed the feet of mere creatures and served them. When we put into practice this great teaching of God, the work of saving people will be accomplished. We have no doubt about that, right? Let's move to chapter 9. The same words were given repeatedly in this chapter too. Chapter 9, verse 35. Sitting down, Jesus called the 12 and said, "If anyone wants to be first, he must be the very last and the servant of all." He took a little child and had him stand among them. Taking him in his arms, he said to them, "Whoever welcomes one of these little children in my name welcomes me. And whoever welcomes me does not welcome me, but the one who sent me." Isn't this the same teaching? If anyone wants to be first, he must be the very last and the servant of all. God gave us this lesson many times. In this world, many crimes, disputes, and quarrels occur among people. What causes such things to take place? It is because people don't want to serve. That is the reason for all problems. Today we should realize God's way of serving others. Please think about it carefully. Why is a mother destined to be in the position of serving her family members? Why do all the pastoral staff and the children of Zion need mothers' leadership in this age? The members who have come to the truth earlier than the other brothers and sisters are spiritually in the position to serve. Why? Because we are called first. As the first ones, we should set an example of faith to the last ones. Let's go to 1 Peter chapter 5. Verse 1 reads, "To the elders among you, I appeal as a fellow elder, a witness of Christ's sufferings, and one who also will share in the glory to be revealed. Be shepherds of God's flock that is under your care, serving as overseers, not because you must." When we take care of the flock, we shouldn't be reluctant. Not because you must, but because you are willing, as God wants you to be. We should be glad and joyful to do the job. Not greedy for money. In other words, not for personal gain, but eager to serve. And what? Not lording it over those entrusted to you, but being examples to the flock. If we lord it over them, can we say we are practicing the will of God, who taught us to serve? In the time of the early church, if somebody lorded over the brothers and sisters, he couldn't be chosen as a leader or an elder. That's why it says, not lording it over those entrusted to you, but being what? Being examples to the flock. And when the chief shepherd appears, you will receive the crown of glory that will never fade away. And the Bible continues to encourage gracious pastoral leaders. Young men, in the same way be submissive to those who are older. All of you, clothe yourselves with humility toward one another, because God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. Humble yourselves, therefore, under God's mighty hand, that He may lift you up in due time. It's not like you should work like a servant because you are a servant. Does a mother work like a servant because she is a servant? No. Suppose that the mother, who is always at home around the time her family comes home, is not at home. Then there will be great chaos in her family. When the father comes home after work, he asks, "Where is your mom?" The children say, "Dad, where is mom?" A son who comes back after work says, "Has mom gone somewhere? Why does our home look deserted? Do we have anything to eat?" They just wait for someone to cook dinner for them. If there is no mom, just for one day, the whole family is in a flustered state. They don't know how important the mother's role is. They can't know when she is with them. But once they experience her absence, they all realize she is in the very important position. Her role is great. In the story as well, people realized that they could not proceed with the pilgrimage to the east without him. This is the way to serve. Just like air, people cannot live without the one who serves them. But in ordinary days, they do not feel his or her existence. They don't even feel the need of his or her existence. What if oxygen disappears just for 5 minutes? Everybody will be tormented. Nobody can do any work. This is the way to serve and the way of humility, which Jesus taught us. He said in the Bible, "Come to me and learn from me." This is something we need to practice and cultivate. It is never easy to cultivate it. We should remove our arrogance and pride and struggle with ourselves. Although it is difficult and we need to overcome ourselves, shouldn't we obey God's words and follow Him? God taught us how to serve by setting an example. So we should do the same to our brothers and sisters in Zion. Even though we exist, it should feel like we don't exist. When we serve our brothers and sisters, we should serve them by worrying about their matters together, taking care of them, and sharing their sorrows and pains. All these things can be done when we put serving others and humility into practice. Those who want to become first must be the last and serve others. They came to this sinful world and live a tough life, working hard. We ought to take pity on them, feel sorry for them, and have compassion for them. We should serve our brothers and sisters from the heart of love. There were some members who did not stand out when they worked for the gospel in Korea, where the economic condition is good. But when they went to some other countries in difficult situations, they made great efforts with more fervor for the gospel work. They said they were heartbroken to see the local brothers and sisters keep their faith without losing their smiles, although they live in poor surroundings. They came to have the heart of father and mother. They came to have compassion for them, thinking they came to this sinful world after committing sins in heaven and are living such tough lives, suffering many hardships. Since they had love in their hearts, the gospel work became prosperous. I heard these kind of stories many times. Our gospel work is not recruiting many members and growing in number. Once you come to the truth, you need to cultivate yourselves spiritually. Practicing the ways of the new covenant is to cultivate ourselves, right? But its process is not easy. It is never easy at all. However, we must do it. When we put it into practice, the whole world and all our lost brothers and sisters will gather under Father and Mother's love and change altogether. Then we will go back to the kingdom of heaven, our eternal home, and reign forever and ever. Such glory will be given to us. Troubles on this earth will last for a short period of time. After a little while, we will go back to our eternal home. Forever and ever we will live with Heavenly Father and Mother in the glorious and eternal heaven. All of us should serve each other so that we can practice the ways of Father and Mother in Zion. On every Passover in Zion, Father and Mother tell us to wash the feet of brothers and sisters. We should wash their feet, knowing its meaning. When each of us thinks, I will serve my brothers and sisters and will become the servant of all, then all the burdens weighing heavily on our shoulders will become light. That's why those who want to become first in heaven must never become first on the earth, but must sit at the lowest position. We must sit at the lowest position and serve brothers and sisters all the time. As the children of Zion, let us all realize the reason Father and Mother came to the earth 2,000 years ago and came again in this age and lived humble lives. God is almighty. Actually, God has no reason to humble himself, but Father and Mother did, because God wanted to teach us the way to serve. I request you to know God's will and change into the heavenly beings so that none of us will fall short of heaven, but all will surely enter our eternal home together. In conclusion, the way to serve is like Mother's destiny, Mother's nature, and Mother's leadership. All the brothers and sisters in Zion, let us engrave Mother's leadership deeply on our hearts and lead all people to the truth with love. By this, I would like to conclude the sermon. Thank you very much.